Okay. Hello. Good morning again.
Hi, Chad.
Yeah. Hi. We're
It,
we're still
it,
clever with our technology.
I know, isn't this so fun? You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
takes us 5 minutes
So,
to push a button,
uh, oh my gosh.
and
Yeah. So,
we call it the
be,
computer age, the age of the speed of light, right? Anyway, go for it.
yeah. Yeah. Um,
So you were quizzing my
just
doctor.
before we figured out how to hit record, you were
Yeah.
you were asking me about my shirt, and so of course this is Dr. Seuss, and I don't know why it was on the top of the pile, so that's what I'm wearing today. And this is one of my favorite stories. This is called The Sneetches, and the Sneetches is um, you can see they've got little stars on their belly.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Okay, so
I'm not
in the
familiar with this
story,
story.
oh, this is my favorite. I'm gonna share this with you and our audience because I think it's so great. And I didn't mean to because, like I said, this was on top of the pile, but I like this shirt.
Oh,
The
sure.
Star Belly Sneetches.
You're being sponsored by Dr. Seuss and Barnes and
Yeah,
Noble, right?
that's right. Yes. Oh my gosh. Now that we're so famous, we're getting
Yeah.
sponsorships
Yeah, we're
from,
sponsorships from
yes.
Barnes and Noble. All right. Anyway, back to the Sneetches. I
Anyway,
interrupted.
the Star Belly Sneetches are different than the Sneetches that don't have stars on their belly. And so the star belly Sneetches, according to the expression on their face, I don't know if you can see that,
Yeah,
they think they're really something, right? They're very proud. I'm a star belly Sneetch, and I'm better than you who do not have a star on your belly. Well, wouldn't you know, this guy comes into town and he has a machine that will put stars on your belly. So all of the plain belly Sneetches go into this machine to get a star on their belly. And so now they're just like the special star belly Sneetches. And so now there's this uproar because the original star belly Sneetches are no longer so special. And so they fight and they argue. And the guy with the fancy machine recognizes what is happening and he says, well, guess what? I can change my machine and I can take the stars off. So now if you have no star on your belly, you're special. And you can be better than those who have the stars because everybody has a star. And so the story continues where the guy with the machine continues to change whether having a star is special or not having a star is special. And the people just go round and round and round trying to make themselves special. And of course, great moral of the story is what the heck are we doing trying to compare ourselves with somebody else and assuming that we're better than somebody else because of some distinguishing trait. And I just thought, man, this was written, what, 60 years
exactly.
ago or
Yeah.
more? And here we are running in and out of the same stupid machine.
Well, I fell in that trap today. As you know, I'm recovering, and I guess I'm back. I'm feeling really good and feeling really strong and powerful again. But I keep wondering, okay, am I really back all the way that back to the level
Mm,
I was? And in some things I can find that and just totally say, oh yeah, I'm way back. In fact, I think I'm
mm,
stronger. And then in other things, it's like, well, am I really? And this morning I went and ran the hills here. So we've got a trail that we can run. We've got a 4 mile loop and then a 9 mile loop on trails. And, it depends on which one you take. And there's all kinds of paths that you can do. But I don't know. I haven't even looked, but I'm sure I've got like 1,000 feet in elevation gain this morning.
oh,
But
wow.
but I did it for a half hour, and I was training this gal, and she was doing some other strength training. And so what I would do is I would run out and then run back to her, and then um, you know see that she was doing her stuff, and then I'd run out. my point is I ran it was 2.8 miles in a half hour with 1,000-foot elevation gain. And I made the comment to her, well, man, I guess I could do better. And she looked at it. No, I said, it was an outside look because I said, I did pretty well today, but it probably looked like I was going really slow. And she looked at me and she said,
Mhm.
are you serious? You're going to
Uh,
you're going to take that outside, it's kind of the star belly thing.
yeah.
So, I didn't have a
We're
star
always
on my chest.
comparing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was comparing outside and I'm thinking, she looked at me and she said, seriously, you just ran
Mm,
almost a 5K almost in a half
yeah.
hour with 1,000-foot elevation gain. She said, this isn't even flat ground and you did that. Anyway, so
Yeah.
we all fall in that trap, and it's funny I fell into it this morning. So
Oh my gosh. Well, here we go again, where the random story turns into something immediately relevant.
well,
But
and what's funny is she did the same thing about 5 minutes later. She started to compare something outside of herself, and I said, whoa, wait a minute.
uh, yeah. See?
What's good for the goose is good for the gander here.
Oh my gosh. Isn't that so funny how easily we can see the curse of comparison in somebody else
Oh yeah,
and not in ourselves. It's like, oh man.
yeah.
Well,
I fell
yeah,
right
that's
into it, and she
fantastic.
did right after I did. So
Yeah.
anyway, funny story. Thank you for sharing that. So everybody run out and buy Dr. Seuss. What's the name of the book? Do you
This
remember?
is the Sneetches, and it's a short story that's in a book with other short stories that are hilarious, and it was on regular repeat for Brandon as a youngster, at bedtime, and yeah, it's my favorite for sure.
Okay, everybody run out to your favorite bookstore
Yeah, you have to
on
buy the
Amazon or
Sneetches. And Todd and Chad get 100% of the proceeds, and
I don't remember seeing that contract. That's pretty cool.
yeah, yeah. Oh my goodness. Oh, that was fun. So, well, hey, great job this morning. Holy cow. That's from where you had been, what's it been, a year now?
Yeah, it's been about, let's see, I'm probably I'm about 18 months. Yeah.
Okay. Pretty remarkable. So, yeah, I would say congratulations and
Um,
great work. And I know this is something you've been steadily progressing with, some patience and hard work and all of that rolled together, and it's clearly paying off. And so I'm really happy for you. That's great.
yeah, for those that are interested, out of that half hour, I was 7 minutes in the red zone.
Well, that's even better because now you're
I
really
guess.
keeping your heart rate under control. I mean, I
Well,
can't do that when I'm running.
it was out of control. There was one point I had to stop and
Mm,
look for a second. And okay,
yeah, yeah,
I got to
yeah,
get back here, get my head back on. Um,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
interesting taking all these metrics. I can kind of feel where I'm at as far as my oxygen and so forth. Um,
Hmm.
it, it's funny because I was going to show you a picture, but what's funny is this picture does not make this hill. You almost have to crawl up it. But anyway, there's my hill run this
Oh,
morning.
yeah.
One of them,
Okay.
one of them. Anyway,
Yeah, that's definitely a hill.
so good morning.
Yeah,
So good.
nice. Little sunrise exercise.
Yeah,
Yeah, I appreciate that too when I don't do it every day. Uh, but Tuesday mornings is my early day, and it's so nice to be out there, just you and nature and the sunrise and doing the thing. Yeah, that's fantastic.
There's
So
one of the
cool.
there's one of the canes
Yeah,
I was running through. So yeah,
that's awesome.
had to take a picture. It was beautiful.
Yeah, yeah, cool.
All right, well, the Sneetches. So what are we working on today? Not comparing?
Uh, yeah, not comparing. Boy, that's a huge lesson, I think.
Really is.
And instead of just wearing the silly shirt, I should be reminding myself of that while I'm wearing it, that, I'm not really any better or worse than the next person, because the comparison is the devil. I mean, that's where the evil is where we get stuck in the comparing. And I know that people will say, you know, don't compare yourself to others, compare yourself to yourself. And what do you think about that? Because I can see some value in that, but there's a little bit of danger there too.
There is. There's a it reminded me of a book that I read. It's a biography. It's called The Blonde Knight of Germany,
Okay.
and it's about Erich Hartmann in World War II, who's a German pilot.
Okay.
He will never be matched as far as the most successful fighter pilot.
Hmm.
Um, he had, let's see, I think it was 352 kills.
From his airplane? I mean, in
Yeah,
terms of shooting other airplanes
yeah,
down? Holy cow.
352. Yeah,
That's like
nobody.
video game stats.
Yeah, no, nobody will ever come close to that. For a variety of reasons. But what's interesting is this goes through his life, and he he wasn't anything wonderful. He wasn't a Nazi or anything. He was kind of pushed into the spot, but he felt patriotic and wanted to, um, you know, uh, work and whether he's Nazi or not, put that on the shelf if you will, and don't judge him for that. Yes, he fought for Germany, but the story that I got from it, and you asked the question, how do we not compare with others, but we compare with ourselves, and that there's a landmine there too, of comparing
Hmm.
with yourself, because you can have this unattainable vision of who you should be,
Hmm.
but it usually comes from the outside. Okay, and
Yeah.
that's another story. But what's interesting is that he had some mentors that took him through this process, and I'll summarize it this way: he would never enter combat unless it was on his terms.
Hmm.
If he felt like the combat was not on his terms, that he couldn't fight on his terms, he would leave.
Interesting.
Um, he was brave. I mean, he was courageous. He would march right into combat, but it was always on his terms. Um, and as
Hmm.
as a result, he was shot down twice. Yeah, he was shot down twice and was able to make it back to his base. But anyway, 352 successes, and I mean there were some that were right around the 300s, but he was another 50 plus of the others, and I attribute it to that he was always in his element where he knew that he was strong.
Hmm.
And if he didn't feel like he was strong enough in the situation, or whatever was facing him, he would uh, remove himself and then come back to fight another day.
Hmm.
So, you know, I share that story because I really think that sometimes that's what we have to do is we have to really look at it and say, okay, is this my, is this where I can shine? Sometimes eh, we need to push ourselves, but at the same time, if we know we're in the wrong space, then we need to back off. And one of the things that he knew, he wasn't a very good shot with his airplane. And so one of the things that he would do is he said, I didn't use the sights. I would fill my windshield with the airplane that I was attacking.
Mm,
And he said,
wow.
I knew I couldn't miss it because I was so close. He said it was in
Yeah.
the windshield. And so
Yeah.
I knew that it was there. And so, he
Huh.
just knew that about himself. And so he played to that, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So I'm thinking two different ideas about this that I hope I can spit out. Um, the first is that um, the negative side I'll start with is when you said that he would only go into battle on his terms. To me, that feels like part of the landmine that you mentioned earlier in our self comparison. In that, um, if I'm only going to do or to perform when I know I can succeed, or so that I can pad my stats in whatever is the thing, um, to me that feels a lot like pride or selfishness, maybe. And we know, I mean, everybody would agree that those things are dangerous.
Absolutely.
And so if we're driven by a comparison to ourselves for those type of metrics, that could be a real problem. But to your point on the positive side, that we also need to be operating in our wheelhouse as much as possible so that we can have the greatest impact and uh, blessing for, you know, how we are skilled and gifted and things like that also makes perfect sense. So to me, there feels like a great tension in there. Any thoughts about that?
Um, Absolutely. The thing I thought about is, you said pride, what's the opposite of pride? Well, it's humility. But I think there's a confidence in humility. And what I mean by that is that you're okay with you. Okay. And
Mm,
I'm knowing that you don't know everything, you can start to push that envelope and test those borders, if you will. And and I think I think there's a confidence that comes as we push those borders, staying in that area of humility. Um,
yeah,
the other side of that is that I'm always protecting myself. I'm never going to go out there where I'm not comfortable, and and that's not what he did. He was always uncomfortable because let's face it, battle is not a comfortable situation.
yeah, fair. Okay, yes,
Okay,
agreed.
you know,
Yeah,
and so for him to just launch into an attack, what he did was he said, okay, does this play to my strengths? I don't know what I'm going to run into, and he did. He got himself in trouble sometimes because things change, and the
yeah,
situation changes. But what he did was he took the opportunity to make sure that he lined up that his position was a little more strong than 50-50. If that makes sense.
yeah.
and
Okay,
still and
sure.
still went into it. Now, could those odds change during the course of the encounter? Absolutely. And we all face that.
Yeah,
Situations change, but so my thought there is I think we've got to maintain this humility, but it's not. Sometimes I think we have the wrong definition of humility. We feel like we have to downplay ourselves, or just,
mm,
and that's not it at all. It's just
yeah,
having this. It's having this self awareness of who I am, what I'm good at, and from that, you garner this confidence that you can go out and push those limits a little bit. In other words, don't be foolhardy. Don't just throw yourself in, well, I'm the guy.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
you know, even him, at 300 successes in combat, he's got to be pretty confident. But what it was he was okay with himself, and he would still just take that moment and say, okay, am I in the right space here where I can
yeah,
increase those odds? I don't know if that's making sense or not, but I see two sides. There's a confidence side of humility, and then there's a I don't know, it's almost like you downplay yourself and keep yourself safe.
yeah,
I'm not going out of my comfort zone, if you will.
yeah,
I don't know. There's my thoughts.
yeah, yeah. So as we circle back then to the comparison part, I don't get the sense that he was comparing himself or in some kind of contest with anybody else. It was very separate from that. It was about his understanding of his skills and where he could be the most effective. And my initial assessment of, well, maybe he was just trying to pad his stats, and like the athlete who only wants to play against
Right.
the elementary girls team. That's not what this guy
No.
was about, and neither should we be about, I guess, is my point, in that in our pursuit of personal growth and development, um, comparing against our younger self or our old self, I think can be very healthy. Um, Certainly in comparison to other people. Other people are not the metric that we need to be worried about, right?
Right.
So yeah, that's fair.
No, he was very humble, and he had confidence, but he wasn't cocky. He wasn't one of these cocky fighter pilots.
Mm,
It was always this. Wow, I'm going into combat. I've got to get my ducks in a row. It wasn't this put my jacket
yeah,
on, put my parachute on, and
yeah.
put my holster, put my pistol in my
It's
holster.
not Top Gun. Yeah.
Yeah, click your helmets, and and,
Yeah, yeah.
and this is a really good book, and I'll give you an example. So after the war, he was captured by the Russians, and they put him in a gulag for 10 years
Mm,
after the war. I mean, and they tried very hard. I mean, they did a lot of things that were not nice. So for him to go back home, after the war, it was in the 50s.
wow. Yeah.
Okay.
Everything changed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His he was true to himself. There were a lot of other Germans that were captured, and they gave in, and you know, he held true to who he was. And it's not that they were divulging any secrets or anything. I mean, the Germans had been defeated, but what they were doing was just making a mockery and so forth. He never would get into that, give into that.
Mm,
He held true to who he was, and
yeah.
you know, he played he fought his battle on his terms.
Yeah. Mm,
It's kind
mm.
of like I don't know if you're familiar with Louis Zamperini, Unbroken. It was a
Yes.
movie.
I was thinking about that story as you were
Okay,
explaining.
yeah, the Japanese never broke him,
Yeah.
and it's because he stayed true to himself.
Yeah. Hmm. What a great challenge, because you can't avoid the temptation for comparison. It's in your face all the time. As soon as you open social media, your brain immediately goes to, how do I stack up against what I'm thumbing through on my phone right now? we're making instantaneous assessments of how we line up. And man, it's so hard to keep that point of view, like these soldiers from either side of the war, to be you. And what I want to be careful to say, because we also live in a time where there are people who are demanding that everybody else treat them the way that they want to be treated, when it's clearly crazy. All right, let's just call it what it is. So there's a sense that we kind of have to be careful with that. We talked about this a few weeks ago, but we can still be wrong, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's not that you're bad or good. You're just wrong.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
So
and I find most people, I think William Shakespeare said it best. Methinks thou dost protest too much. Okay, and
mm,
sometimes I think whether it's conscious or unconscious, and this is no, this is no slight to them. I honor people and I allow them to think what they want to think, but sometimes I think they're uncomfortable with what they think, and so they
yes,
push it even harder
yes,
to make themselves feel good. I mean, we all
yes,
fall in that trap. We've all fallen in that trap. Okay.
absolutely.
I want people to feel really good about running hills, and some will look at me and go, "Are you
It's
crazy?
not going to happen. Yeah, it's not
I'm
going to happen.
not going out there." And,
Yeah.
even though I push it and I love it and it makes me happy and therefore it should make everybody else happy,
Hmm.
push that. And so, you're absolutely right. But I think sometimes we're uncomfortable with it too.
Mm,
With our opinion that we've taken
yes.
on, and that's okay. We've got to come to but we've all been there. I mean,
Yeah.
we've decided to accept something into our lives, and do I really accept it? Or we've made that decision, but
Yeah.
sometimes I think there's just that little bit of doubt, and you sit there and you go, man, I've got to justify this because I put myself out there, and so
Yeah.
you push.
There's an innate part of humanity, because we are made in God's image, and we live in God's world, that pokes us about such things. There's a sense of uneasiness and a stress, maybe, when we're trying to force an identity, or um, an ideology, or a way about ourselves that isn't aligned with how we are actually made. And to your point, we are all guilty of this. We all fall into it. I was just writing this morning in my journal, um, the question, what am I so afraid of? And, you know, the list is pretty long, if I'm honest. I'm afraid of rejection. I'm afraid of failing. I'm afraid of missing out. I mean, all of the things that I think plague a lot of people. And um, I believe that part of that comes from me trying to control and to force my way over how God has actually made me to be. And that tension is where the stress and the frustration and all of that comes from. So in that sense, I guess, um, trying to collect my thoughts here around this idea of comparison, sometimes the things that I'm comparing myself to are just wrong, and I'm doing it wrong. I'm thinking wrong. I'm thinking badly, and I need help to properly sort that, so that ultimately I can be relieved of this anxiety and frustration and stress in my life, because I'm trying to force things that really aren't meant to be for me. that make any sense? Or
Yeah,
I don't
no, it
know.
makes total sense. And what's funny is when we force things like that, we become louder.
Yeah.
We push it, we become
Yeah.
louder. And
Yes.
it's funny for me. That's kind of a litmus test. Oh, I'm too zealous about this. I better
Mm,
be careful because
boy,
I'm
that is
starting to
so good.
I'm starting to push this, and I've got to be.
Yeah.
As you were going on there, I went back to Shakespeare. It's funny, we just have to know ourselves, and I mean our true selves, not who we're making up, not who society, I think we've got to step back and say, okay, what influences do I want on me? And to your point,
Mm,
they have to be the correct ones. They have to be the
yeah.
right ones. Okay. It's like using gravity to fly. You have to have gravity to fly. Okay.
Right.
But if I
Yes.
use it wrong, that airplane's going to come. I mean,
Yes.
I can have the positive thoughts, and I can have all, I can have a bunch of
Right.
friends telling me I'm okay. We're all in
Yep.
this together, and I'm still going to crash. But to your point, I just have to be right, and I have to be right knowing myself, my true self. Okay.
Mm,
And I think we have to come up with that, and then back to Shakespeare: to thine own self be true,
mm,
not to social media, not to,
yeah.
I really think that's what it comes down to. To
Wow.
to
That's
thine own,
heavy.
to thine own self be true.
Yeah.
Man, I didn't know I was going to quote Shakespeare this morning.
I know. Look at you. We're getting all fancy up in here.
Wow, higher level. We went from Dr. Seuss to Shakespeare.
I
I'm not sure which is higher level.
know. Oh my gosh. Oh, so fancy, these guys. Man,
Okay,
Dr. Seuss
you
to
can
Shakespeare.
label
That's
this the
awesome.
literary
Yeah.
test. Uh, anyway,
uh, good stuff. There's a lot to think about today. Thank
well,
you for this.
thank you, and thanks for wearing that shirt. But I that's what impressed me about this guy is that he knew himself. I mean, he ran around with other successful people, but he he did not let that. I mean, it influenced him, of course, but it was on his terms. It was back to he knew himself.
Yeah. Wow. Hmm. We need to think about that. My encouragement to us and to anybody who would listen is that we need to slow it down enough to ask these questions and think about, who we really are and what's our purpose? What are we really here for? And we might find some things that need some attention, I guess, self included. I mean, like I said, I've identified a whole bunch of fears that some of which I thought I had licked, and I don't think that's the case. It's an ongoing thing to stay in front of.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to applaud you. I was just going to mention that you wrote that in your journal. What a great reflection. What a place to reflect and go, you know what? I'm lacking on these. Now, what you need to
Yeah.
do is go back and say, okay, how do I improve on them? What can I
Right.
learn? How
Yeah.
can I? And see, that goes back to that humility. And
Mm,
this guy was relentless on his skill building.
mm,
He never got to a point that he said, I got this. It was
mm.
always, it was always this iteration of bettering himself and knowing that he didn't know everything.
Yeah. Awesome.
Anyway,
It's a
well,
journey.
we're
We've
about
never
out.
arrived, and we're out of time.
We're out of time again. Can you believe this?